Hi everybody, I'm Bill Whittle and this is the Firewall. In the aftermath of the acquittal of the police officer involved in the Michael Brown shooting, the town of Ferguson erupted into riots. Well, it's hardly surprising when the former Attorney General Eric Holder, presumably fully informed of the same evidence that the grand jury saw before declining to press any charges whatsoever against the officer, went all in and decided to literally make a federal case out of the incident. President Obama, prior to the decision, met with the leaders of the so-called protest movement, telling them to stay the course. He too, needless to say, was fully informed about what actually happened that day on the streets of Ferguson and knew that an officer of the law was innocent. But lawlessness is nothing to these two reprehensible individuals, but power's everything. We'll come back to them in a minute. Now, this case was manufactured from the ground up by Holder, Obama, and other evil people in order to hold political power. Stealing a television set does not undo injustice, not even a fake injustice. Walking out of a looted store is not a civil rights act. It's lawlessness, it's violence, it's chaos, and it's brutality, and that's all it is. It's barbarism. None of these peaceful protesters on that bridge in Selma, Alabama were caught doing this on video, shoving a small, innocent shopkeeper for having the impertinence to challenge Michael Brown's casual barbarism, his theft of cigars, his wanton lawlessness. This isn't civil rights. This is strong-arm robbery. And Michael Brown wasn't shot for being black. He was shot because he attacked a police officer investigating that crime, tried to take his gun, and then charged him head down after being warned. But the barbarism and lawlessness we saw in the streets of Ferguson and all around the country do not exist in a vacuum. They're not only tolerated by the left-wing leaders of the Democratic Party and the media entertainment complex, they're encouraged by them. So let's start with Al Sharpton, one of the most vocal of those calling this a civil rights issue. Sharpton rose to national fame for his defense of Tawana Brawley, a 15-year-old black woman who in 1987 accused law enforcement officials of raping her and stuffing her in a trash bag covered with racial slurs. Serial rapist Bill Cosby helped raise money for her legal defense. Despite numerous inconsistencies, Al Sharpton made this an indictment of white America and law enforcement's targeting of blacks, which would, indeed be horrible if it were actually true. But it wasn't true. Brawley made up the story to avoid a beating from her mother. Now, despite the fact that she named and slandered an innocent man, that'd be Assistant DA Stephen Pagonis, who eventually was awarded $345,000 for defamation, in 1991, legal scholar Patricia J. Williams wrote that Brawley, quote, has been the victim of some unspeakable crime, no matter how she got there, no matter who did it to her, and even if she did it to herself. So we all clear on that now? Doctor of Jurisprudence from Harvard Law School and current law professor at Columbia University said that Tawana Brawley, who slandered an innocent man with the most vile charges imaginable to avoid a beating from her own mother, was not the perpetrator of an unspeakable crime, but the victim of one. These are the new barbarians. Truth doesn't matter, law doesn't matter, individual lives don't matter. All that matters is progressive politics, progressive intimidation, and progressive power. Now, just a few days ago, Breitbart reporter John Nolte traveled to Oberlin College to look into widely read rape allegations on the part of progressive darling Lena Dunham. Dunham, you may remember, was called on by Barack Obama personally to help get out the youth vote. Truth Revolt's own Ben Shapiro published a withering critique of what is nothing but infant sexual molestation, which Dunham brags about in her bestseller, Not That Kind of Girl. Allegations just utterly unremarked upon by Dunham's admirers on the left. So Nolte went to her alma mater, Oberlin College, which I can tell you from personal experience is where reason and logic go to die, to investigate Dunham's claim that she was raped by a prominent Republican, the campus's resident conservative, a mustachioed man named Barry, who wore purple cowboy boots, had a Barry White low voice, and hosted a radio show called Real Talk with Jimbo. A search of school records showed only one person named Barry who was self-described as a Republican. He never wore a mustache. He never wore purple cowboy boots. He spoke in a normal voice. He was not the host of a talk show. He's never met Lena Dunham, but like Steve Pagonis, he feels he's been slandered in the most vicious way by a barbaric, cruel, deeply disturbed attention junkie. So, how did Dunham and Brawley before her and millions of other new barbarians get this way? Well, they were taught. That's how. Because while trying to find the identity of this famed, mustachioed, purple boot-wearing, conservative Republican rapist named Barry, John Nolte spoke with Sophie Hess, manager of the on-campus radio station, about searching the records for the existence of a show called Real Talk with Jimbo. When he explained that he was only searching for the truth, this college administrator suddenly turned cold and said, "Asking whether or not a victim is telling the truth is irrelevant. It's just not important if they're telling the truth." When Nolte explained he was simply trying to clear the name of an innocent man, this progressive barbarian retracted her offer to search the archives and then asked him to leave. George Santayana wrote, "In every generation, we face a barbarian threat in our own children. Not a threat to our children, a threat from our children." From the rioters on the streets of Ferguson stealing car rims under the progressively sanctioned cover of so-called social justice, to inhuman attention junkies who are perfectly happy to ruin the lives of people they perceive as political enemies, knowing full well they're innocent, through leftist college professors who teach them that the truth and the law does not matter so long as the progressive goals of identity politics are advanced, and right on up to the President and Attorney General of the United States of America, who use IRS intimidation of political enemies and simply dictate those laws that they cannot get passed legally. Progressivism is a philosophy of lawlessness, disregard for truth, contempt for individual lives and individual freedom. It is utter, total barbarism. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and be sure to visit us at truthrevolt.org. And to keep these messages coming, please consider making a donation by clicking here.